Okay. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please. Mayor Bailey, here. Mr. Bateman.
Here.
Mr. Goodyear.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Ori.
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Ping.
Here.
Mr. Kennedy.
So, Council, this is our 2025 CIP meeting. Got it set up on two screens. I've given you a printout. You'll find that the last page is also just a full list of the 2025 CIP. Chris, Kelsey, and I, we know who's next, so we're just going to move through this. We want to give you guys plenty of time for questions. So, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, sorry. So, first of all, I just want to introduce, this is our team and sort of the process that we go through. This actually starts back in late June, early July. We don't budget the CIPs on 1 year. We budget them over the course of 5. And we also sort of as we put together the projects, Mark is sort of getting the revenues together. That sort of defines what we're going to do, what projects have to be deferred. And then, of course, there's that challenge of what funds are all involved in the projects. So ultimately, this is the team. We meet regularly, and I will add that the budgeting software really made this improvement because it allows, like Kelsey, to stay put, Scott and Sean, everyone who's in there to stay put because of the remote portions of it. One of the things that we do, and I'm going to do just more takeaways on these so we can get through all of this, but I will say that when was the last time, I can certainly say in the decade I've been with the city, that sidewalks were 26% of your capital CIP project type. That's a significant number. And that sort of goes back to both the comprehensive plan and the city council's goals of connectivity. That's 26% is a pretty big deal. Also, I extended that one pie on the former future CIP designs because this year alone, the city will be spending $1.7 million on 4 future projects, 2 phases of Lovell Madeira Road, Butterwilk, State Route 48 sidewalks, and Riverside Drive. Also, the city funds their project from multiple funds, multiple sources. Takeaway on this is that almost 40% of this year's CIP, if all funding comes in, we just received positive notice today on a project grant that Chris put in. 40% of the CIP will be funded through outside grant sources. I know it sounds a little quirky, but you are bringing people's state and sometimes federal tax dollars back into the city, and I think that's an important thing that I think the city does better than a lot of other surrounding communities. Certainly something we take serious. With that in mind, there's 8 different sources. I combined the 2 Lovell Madeira roads that would be projects that would be. You can see I emphasize the project cost and the grant submissions. That's pretty typical if you look across those, and you can check the. You can go ahead and check Nisbet Park walking trail and trail expansion as approved. And the State Route 48 design has already been approved, and both of the engineering for Lovell Madeira Road. So we're still waiting on West Loveland, East Loveland, and the Nisbet Park Amphitheater. So the theme for this project is real clear, is master plans. The city did 4 master plans over the course of a 4-year period of time. And I'm certainly sure there are many communities that will tell you that there's master plans that sit on shelves and never get opened again. I would say that this city's 4 master plans are working documents, and that's important because there's elements of this capital improvement program. There's projects from every aspect of the 4 master plans that are done and are included in this year's CIP. And that's important because there's nothing worse than spending money, getting a lot of public input, and having a plan that just sits on a shelf. And that's important. And we sort of themed that. We sort of themed the CIP on how do projects fit into the various master plans. So first and foremost is the Nisbet Park master plan. and won the project, the amphitheater at $1,004,578. City just submitted an application for $500,000. Our local share then is $504,578. $250,000 of that we've secured through the capital budget. $201,000 of that will come from the sale, the easement sale that the city sold to Verizon. So that is $451,000 of basically other funds required, with the remaining $54,000 to come from those sources is included in the 2025 CIP. This is obviously a transformational project. It was a big piece of that. We see it as a promoting tourism for this region. We certainly see it as a benefit to our downtown businesses. I think that this would bring in, just in conversations with a school superintendent, he envisions the school having larger productions. You may see graduations down here someday. If one of the projects in the grant application was you had to go stand where the amphitheater was and take a picture in every direction, and I couldn't help but notice when you took the picture to the south that I thought to myself, wow, there's really not a place in Nisbet Park where you wouldn't be able to sit, chairs, blankets, and not have a view of a production. Add the new parking, the new access. I think it's realistic to say that the city can bring in some pretty significant wide range of activities. Chris?
The next part of the Nisbet Park Master Plan that we'll be getting to in 2025 is the Nisbet Walking Trail and the Riverside Swings. This will be phase one of that loop trail. This past year, over the past couple of years, we've completed seating areas 1, 2, and 3. So this is moving through that master plan and getting all the elements in place. This phase one will basically be a connection from the path that comes off of Carl Brown, and it'll wrap around the existing swing sets and play area there, and it'll tie into the shelter house. Along that pathway, there will be strategically placed locations for the adult swings, river swings, that'll provide hopefully a very good view of the river. The total cost for this project was $67,650. As Mr. Kennedy alluded to earlier, we did find out today that the $50,642 of it has been funded. So we're excited about that. And the remaining financial support from that will come from our local general fund, as well as the Little Miami River Chamber Alliance. They have committed a substantial amount of money to help us out with the swings. This project, throughout the process of getting the funding, it was well received and well accepted by many of the local community partners, including Little Miami Friends of the Little Miami River, Jason Brown Knight and his group. So everyone's really excited for this project, and we hope to get this thing rolling right away in the spring of 2025.
So going into the comprehensive plan, the connectivity, which was a city council goal and called out inside the comprehensive plan, the city will finish the third phase of the Loveland Miamiville Road sidewalks this year. This is the longest phase. It will get us up to Huntington. I want to point out again, because this was a big step for council. Without the WMR money to pay for the water portion of this project, I don't think you would be doing it. You certainly are going to be running in sidewalks and putting in curbs and not replacing the water mains. So that's a big part of it. About half of this section needs new water mains. Scott Wisby pointed out that the portion that goes up to Huntington is new. So, but still having the WMR money to pay for that portion is a big deal. One of the other projects that ties into the comprehensive plan, and this goes into that. What we've always said is that there's no quick fix to traffic in Loveland. It's a bunch of little things under the pretense of little things that we can do to help improve traffic. Is the West Loveland at Loveland Madeira Road and Elm Street turn lane. If you've for all of you who've ever driven down West Loveland to turn on to Loveland Madeira Road by the Dairy Whip, just get just about to that turn lane and you can't get over. This project will expand that turn lane up to about the length of the dairy whip, shy of the insurance company, and this will help the improvement. It'll go with the right hand turn lane signal that the city added 2 summers ago, and will really help that flow. That will back that log that goes all the way to Kip's house, probably at times, and this is an important another tweak to the city's parking.
The next kind of connectivity project that we'll hopefully have rolling, and this will be again funding dependent, grant funding dependent. This is an OPWC project. Is the East Loveland Sidewalks Phase 2. This will pick up where the last East Loveland project just finished up, the bridge project. It'll pick those sidewalks up, and we will take them up to Far Lane, and eventually getting those sidewalks up to the Grail property is the ultimate goal. So that'll get us one step closer and allow for connectivity for those residents in that area down to the downtown district. This project will include stormwater improvements, which includes any drainage issues out there. They'll be taking a look at and making sure we make sure we hit everything while we're out there. This project will be a little different than the East Loveland Bridge project. Traffic would be maintained for this project. There would not be any road closures for this. So most of this work is going to be done, with when it needs to be done would be with one lane of closure, and we'd be able to keep traffic moving. So we hopefully would not have any of the same issues we had with the bridge project. The total cost on this project is $1,274,606, and $517,000 of that is coming from OPWC loan, and and then another $517 will come from an OPWC grant if we're funded, and then the remainder of that would come from local funds. We're hoping, if funded, this will be late summer of 2025. The next several projects are really just the advancement of a bunch of projects through the engineering and design phase. The first one is the Loveland Madeira Road systemic phase, and this is the design and engineering work for sidewalks and corridor improvements from the Public Works Building to approximately Castle Skateland. In 2025, we look to expend $283,191. And of that, $254,872 will be from grant funding. So not a ton of general fund money this year on that project. Most of that will be for right-of-way acquisition, because the design plans are getting pretty darn close to being complete. We just got phase 2 or stage 2 comments back, and usually once you hit stage 2, your stage 3 is pretty limited on anything that would be changing. So, and that's on schedule, and we're hoping to start construction on that in 2026. The next phase of Loveland Madeira Road is what's being called phase 1, and this is the design and engineering for the multi-use path and sidewalks from West Loveland to Valley View Lane, which includes a roundabout at Valley View Lane. This project is really going to open that corridor for us of the Chestnut property. This is really going to open that up, and that whole area, once this gets under construction, is just going to look completely different. And I think that's going to be a real spur to the corridor as a whole. In this year, in 2025, we're looking to expend approximately $714,000. Of that $714,000, $327,600 will be in grant funding, and construction is still slated to begin in 2027. Moving on to the next slide, we talk a little bit about our downtown streetscape plan.
Did you 48?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, State Route 48. State Route 48 sidewalks is another connectivity project. That's one that we just did find out that our phase 2 got funded by OKI. Phase 1 is basically going from State Route 48 at Blossom Hill to Butterworth, and then our phase 2 will be going up Butterworth from 48 to Butterworth Glen. The first phase, even though we're breaking this up into 2 phases, it will be constructed as one. but it needed to be broken up based on the funding. So ODOT, that portion is actually phase one that they're funding through their grants, and then phase two is that recent one from OKI that we just received word on. In 2025, it's going to be pretty much all design work. We have $383,616 for design in this upcoming year, and of that 383, we have 333,266 will be coming from the grant funding. And as we've been talking about, this construction will start in 2028. So we're in the infancy of this project. But as with any funded project through OKI or through ODOT, there is a process that has to be followed as far as timing. So we're kind of tied to that. So that's why it seems so far off. But as you go through the iterations of the stages that you have to submit, it all kind of makes sense because there will be right-of-way acquisition and many other things that'll have to get ironed out, and they do take time. Now on to the next one. The next one is our downtown streetscape plan. So to advance this project, we're hoping we have an OPWC grant in for this project, which is West Loveland Avenue Streetscape Phase 1. This is a joint project with Cincinnati MSD. They are looking to continue the replacement of their existing sanitary sewer where they terminated with the East Loveland Bridge project. They need to get basically from that terminus point down to the West Loveland Bridge, just past Carl Brown Way. So as part of that project and knowing they needed to get that done, we knew as part of the streetscape plan, we had plenty of elements that can be done at the same time. So as we said, we submitted for the OPWC, and we're hopeful that we can get substantial funding, around $800,000 from OPWC for that. And we have another $500,000 from the Appalachian grants that'll be contributing towards the project. MSD, they're contributing $948,000, and then that leaves a local share of about $356,000 for this project, of which about $89,000 will be coming straight from the WMR fund because we will have water main improvements to be done on this project. Along with the water main, we have obviously storm sewer that we're going to address while we're out there, and then the big portion of it, the portion that everyone sees, will be the new sidewalks and the new landscaping, the trees with the silva cells. So that will all be part of this project. If we are successful and this does come to fruition with the grant, construction will start late summer 2025. So we will be working feverishly to get the plans completed in hopes to run forward with it come July 1st when the funds are made available. One of the next plans we have is the downtown development plan. This plan has many elements to it. Specifically, one that's kind of been not been ignored, but one that we've really been trying to figure out ways to move pedestrian traffic up towards 2nd Street and up towards the Graders area, and how do you get more foot traffic up in that area. That was an element that was identified in this plan. And what we're trying to do here with this project, it's only about a $20,000 project, but with the new parking lot, there is no access currently to the sidewalks on State Route 48 in front of the old mobile station. The challenge here is getting across the railroad tracks. We've been working with the railroad company, and we've designed a plan for a short stretch of sidewalk with what they call Z gates. These essentially are safety features for pedestrian and bike traffic. What they do is they force you kind of through a turnstile, in a sense, where you go back and forth, so that you physically look up and down the train tracks, so that you can see if anything is coming. So it's a safety feature that'll be included on both sides of this pedestrian walkway. This pedestrian walkway will get you to, obviously, to the retail at Loveland Station that I referenced earlier. but it's also going to be a direct access point to the future pocket park there at the old mobile station. As I said, this is a fairly low in cost when compared to some of the other projects, about $20,000, but a very important project. And we hope to start this right away in spring of 2025.
So this year's one of the highlights, or one of the important parts of the CIP, which, as I stated at the very beginning of the slide, is part of what we do is we gather our projects. We meet as Mark sort of gauges our revenue, and as everyone knows, and Mr. Quangelo knows, we budget with proceeds that come in. We do not budget with carryover monies from previous years. So that's our goal, and that's what we strive to do. So with that, with a decrease in the income tax, we worked hard to come up with a way to keep the road program solvent, but accepting the fact that the general fund portion of it would be decreased. So I went back through the Stantec report that the city received in 2019 after the 2019 budget was already set. So with the Stantec report, which, if you recall, was a full analysis of the city's road, a vehicle, it wasn't even a truck, drove around all the city streets, did analysis, drilled into the roadway, and came up with a very excellent report. Based upon that report, city's total lane miles, they set a baseline for the city of $880,000 per year on our road program. So 2020, the first budget cycle upon which the city had the Stantec report while doing the budget, we went from 750. If you look back a few years, when we're in the 300s, that's a significant jump. In 2021, 22, 23, and 24, we were all over $1 million. 22 and 23 well over $1 million. And then what I put in the budget in 2025 is $800,000. That was largely due to the need to decrease the general fund. But I want to point out that still since receiving the Stantec report, the city has averaged just under $1 million a year, when we should be at 880. I also want to point out, because I always think this gets lost in the dust, is the amount of roads since the city received the Stantec report, and I'm saying received it in terms of budgeting, which was 2020, the amount of roads that were paved in the city not part of the road program. And that's all of Miami View, Main Street, Chestnut, Wall Street from Main to West, Broadway Street from Hannon up to 333, Harrison, which wasn't even just Harrison, it was building a new street, which is the extension of Harrison, East Loveland from the bridge up to 362, and a single lane of Loveland Miamiville Road in phase 2. I would be making up the number to come up with, because they're buried in other projects, but those are legitimate road improvements that were done during that period of time that were not in part of the road program. We went back through and went into great detail. That would put the city at well over 1.5 to 1.75 that we've spent on our road program since since our first budget year, which was 2020. We have full intentions in 26 to be sitting here with you with CIP and be right at that 880 number. But at the end of the day, we needed to do what we needed to do to get the budget at the right place. So we feel good with that number. Scott will tell you that because of the council's commitments in years 21, 22, 23, and 24, we're largely spending our money inside subdivisions now, which is sort of the goal. And at 800,000, that should be a pretty significant increase. If everything else gets funded, the city will also be doing road repair as part of the East Loveland project and road repair as part of the West Loveland Streetscape project. Another significant amount of road advancements in 2025, which will certainly put us well over the 880 number. But at the end of the day, this was the best we could do on the road program. Let's look back at in 2014, 15, 16, and 17, we're double and sometimes triple the amount of money we spent on our roads. So just we felt that needed a little deeper dive and explanation. That's why that screen was produced. So, yes, sir.
How many miles And have we done in road repairs in that period?
I
You
can
know.
work with Scott and get that for you.
Okay.
He has pretty good data on that. We have 111 our total road miles. He can come up with that. We'll get you that number
Thank you.
because he's got some pretty good data. We'll just go back through the files.
One of the enterprise funds that we wanted to focus on for some of the CIP improvements for this upcoming year is the water system. This is near to me just because it's, as I say it a lot, say it to a lot of people, is it's one service that you can say every resident in the city of Loveland benefits from the city. So it's something that we need to keep a focus on and keep an eye on for continuing to make improvements and not lose sight of it. I'm going to kind of hit it for these bigger projects. Obviously, PFAS treatment design. This was brought up obviously due to regulatory standards. We're continuing to move through that process, and in this upcoming year, we look to advance the design of that project. We're continuing to pursue grants and loans, and we will continue to work through the design process in 2025. Pressure reducing valve upgrades at the Claremont County Interconnect. As you recall, earlier this year we had a substantial water main break where the PRV at this interconnect unfortunately failed intermittently. We've got some improvements we'd like to make out there that will improve the reliability as well as the redundancy to this interconnect. So we'll get those done here early in the year. We're looking at around $25,000 in improvements out there. One thing that I kind of identified when I got here, one thing that's really useful as a proactive tool for a water system is a working and living hydraulic model. This is something that is basically even though this isn't an actual capital that you see, this is basically a computer software program that we're going to work with a consultant that we can have real life data of our system, our pressure zones, of our bottlenecks, our fire flow. When we have new developments come in or new users, we can plug them into the model, see how it affects our system. This is a very handy tool, a very useful tool that a water system of our size needs to have. And we will implement that this year. That's approximately $30,000. And then the last major improvement is to ensure reliability again and redundancy for all of our water customers by making sure we have crucial elements on backup or backed up on the shelf. And some of these items, they don't sound like a lot, but they're expensive. This backup motor starter for our West Water Booster Station is critical, and it's a substantial cost. So we wanted to talk about it. It's around $10,000, but having these things and not relying on vendors when you're in a time of need is something that is very worthwhile.
So a couple of the other 2025 capital projects. Kelsey wants to talk to you about the Riverside Drive project.
Yes, so this project is located along East Kemper Road. It's on the northwestern bank of the Little Miami River. It's approximately between 278 East Kemper and 250 East Kemper Road. And there are 3 project areas along that stretch. So sites 1 and 2 for East Kemper Road, it runs along a hillside with steep wooded slopes. And nearer the site 3 will be a structure and a parking lot are located on the northwest side of East Kemper with a wooded slope leading towards the railroad tracks. The city currently performs road repairs on a regular basis at these 3 sites due to slope failures and erosion. And it would, if that ever does, again, get worse, which if we do nothing, it will eventually, based on a report, that the road would eventually undermine and fall into the river. that it would negatively impact approximately 11 residences and 23 commercial businesses if the road were shut down or inaccessible. And then the traffic count from September 2023 for East Kemper Road equates to about 5985 vehicles per day. So a decent amount. And we're currently planning, we do have a report, and we're trying to implement a long-term shoreline stabilization plan that protects East Kemper Road from future slope failures or further erosion. And the stabilization efforts should be environmentally and economically acceptable. And there should be, again, cost efficient. For that fix, our number one priority project will be this East Kemper Road for grant funding in 2025. And there are alternate solutions that we can do, and there are currently 6 of them. And that includes like a riprap stabilization within those 3 areas to try to stabilize it, a wall with tieback anchors, soil anchor reinforcement, chemical grouting, the road relocation, and vegetated riprap. And out of those 6 alternative plans, the vegetated riprap was the most cost efficient, as well as the best alternative for what is needed there. And the total project cost for design and construction of the project will be shared 65% federal and 35% non-federal. And the estimated fully funded total project cost for the alternative 6 would be $7,350,000, $7.3 million. And yeah, so alternative 6 was the highest evaluation and score across the objectives and constraints needed for this project. And the schedule of design is expected to take about 6 months, with a contract award occurring 2 months after design is complete, and implementation is expected to be completed in 1 construction season. So during construction, one lane of East Kemper Road will be closed during construction, with periodic closing of the entire road when it is required. And several utilities will be likely impacted by the project construction, particularly underground stormwater and sanitary sewer lines, as well as some overhead stormwater and sanitary, as well as overhead electric, and telecom lines. And everything so far is what is needed for the report. It's in the full compliance with all local, state, and federal statutes, as well as executive orders, and no local zoning laws or public planning ordinances are in place that the project area would impact for these 3 sites.
Thanks, Kelsey. So a couple of wrap it up, just some of the projects that we have. We had a 3-year plan to do the LED message signs. We deferred that last year. The third one is the final one that would be downtown. These obviously you've all seen what Krista does with message signs. I will tell you that the one up in the Commerce Park was a big hit. They talk to any of those guys up there. They love that their logo comes up on that sign. And I like it because I think there's a lot of people that don't realize that's the city of Loveland, and that sign has met that goal. So that is the final plan. If you have all recall, this council was committed to the GPS, the items that are placed at the traffic signals that detect oncoming emergency vehicles. The LSFD and police have been over time adding these to all of their vehicles. So we will be adding, I believe, 3 more GPS kits in our police vehicles this coming year. I've asked independently each chief, Chief Gabrielson and Chief Huber, have you noticed an impact? And they both immediately say yes. If you've ever been at an intersection, it's interesting to see because everyone gets a light. They know where the emergency vehicle's coming. It is quite the technology. We just need to finish getting them in all the actual emergency vehicles. It is not only timing, it is safety. Getting people to stop. Safety is a big part of it. Probably 50-50 in terms of safety and getting to an emergency quicker. One of the items that we deferred in 2025 was instead of 2 public works trucks, we'll be doing 1 more. If you recall, there was 1 purchased near the end of the year. Chris will be working with Scott to get the second truck ordered early in 2025, and then there'll be 1 more in 2026. Those are used pretty regularly. The last project, which isn't going to be listed in your CIP because we'll be doing it through a agreement with Duke Energy, is the West Loveland lighting. I just want to emphasize that this project, which technically could have been thrown in the streetscape plan, is in the downtown development plan, is a very important project. I know it's just lighting, but the vision would be that someday you would see the West Loveland Business District, and I can only say that I've been here for 10 years and I've seen that go from largely residential to almost completely commercial, becoming part of the downtown business district, which with a bridge in between. And part of that is adding this street furniture, and this is the antique lighting. This project was really sort of stuck in the mud because there just wasn't enough area in the tree lawn. When the city committed to moving to the backside of the sidewalks, the downside of that is that you had to get an easement from every property owner. Between Chris and Eva taking this project on, he'll be bringing that forward to you. Both of them, this is the tedious work of meeting with every property owner, maybe sometimes moving it 2 feet to the left or 2 feet to the right. There's a tree there and so on and so forth. It's a very tedious one, and it's all been wrapped up. So I really, Chris and Eva really took this project. So someday you'll be driving down West Loveland from Loveland Madeira Road, and there'll be more of a seamless transition as you go into the downtown business district because all the street lighting matches. And so this is a really important project, and it just isn't listed in your CIP because we typically do these like a lighting district through Duke, so there's really not a capital expense, but it'll be a very, very visible project and very, very attractive on the backside of the curbs. And all of the property owners that signed the easements, well, those except those that didn't sign them, looked at this as an amenity to their project to have these beautiful street lights right inside their front yard. So it's going to really be an attractive addition and accent that business district. So this was our goal, to give you guys plenty of time. I had to throw this picture in because even though it was really a 2024 capital project, it's largely going to be built in 2025. So this is what Chris and I thought we'd at least throw it out there because technically this was a 24. So we wanted to give you guys plenty of time to ask any questions, and still have plenty of time to get ready for your 7 o'clock meeting. Everyone is here that I think can answer any question you might have.
Okay.
A question on the comprehensive master plan regarding the East Loveland sidewalks. I'm just curious, you said that those were going to be going towards the Grail property. This particular phase 2, how close does it get it to where the Grail property is, and specifically the school property that is now part of that too?
So we're terminating at Far Lane. Dave, do you have any idea how far away that is?
The next phase is actually like Huntington. It's the longest phase. Yeah. So the third phase. This is just the far. There was a terminus point there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long that distance is, but it's to Far Lane.
This is only on the one side. There's no way you can have the sidewalks on the north side of East Loveland. It's like this.
Yeah. Also, regarding the streetscape, I'm just curious. We mentioned we talked about this previously with West Loveland Avenue streetscape, but when that happens, is there any possibility of when the road has to be closed down partially, of doing a detour through Harrison and Carl Brown or something so that the traffic is not quite as disrupted, or is that not realistic just because of road widths and things? It just, I guess the reason it comes to my mind is just the problems we already have on that part of the road. Having that, I see the price tag here and I'm thinking there's a lot that's going to be going on, MSD and water and everything else. Is that even a possibility to do something like that? Because the other way, we have the bridge problem with clearances and all. So is any of that baked into what we're talking about, or no?
Yeah, so a lot of that's going to get, unfortunately, a lot of that will get flushed out in the design. So the MOT, maintenance of traffic, will get flushed out in that. The positive with the project is really, it's because we're not doing much pipe work on the storm. It's a lot of inlets and whatnot. When they're going to be detouring traffic will be the sanitary. So it'll be a matter of how quickly can we get the sanitary through there, and then because most of the sidewalk improvement, that's all off the road. So I think you'll be able to keep traffic flowing. But we will look at, because I mean, a possibility is Carl Brown to Harrison, maybe down, coming back down Greer Militzer. It's going to have to be flushed out. You're absolutely right. And we'll dive into that as hard as and try to make the most logical MOT. But it will be a challenge.
Just add one thing, Kip, is that we will be actually working soon removing the 4 spaces along Railroad. It's those 4 parking spaces
along
Greer Militzer, along Pladroom Record there.
Yep.
So just so you know, those are coming. So that will help.
A question on the last slide you had up there. You mentioned 35% other funding, 65% federal on the Riverside Drive. So the 35% other is like $2.6 million. Is that money that you're seeing primarily as grant money, or if that's not coming from us, we're going to get
portions
grants to cover most of that.
That's what I think when Chris was emphasizing, if the West Loveland Avenue Streetscape project isn't phased, it wouldn't be our number one priority project. Next year, we would be going after OPWC, singularly going after Riverside Drive, plus the Hamilton County MRF money, Municipal Roads Fund money. We have purposely not taken any of that money. We have 3 roads in the city, Riverside Drive, Love of Madeira Road, and Lebanon, that are eligible for the Municipal Road funding. We've purposely not touched that to build that up towards this portion. But yes, there will be, it will be likely our only OPWC project, and it would likely be a project where we may have to take some general fund 0 interest loan to help offset it. But when we hitched our wagon to the Corps of Engineers, we did that for 2 reasons. A, they open up funding. Their funding is significant. Plus the ability for them to run through all of the environmental issues, which are significant. But yes, it is going to be a significant financial. But compared to, I will tell you that picture that you saw in there, Scott sort of laughed when we were going over this. The pavement that was put into this area is already long gone in that picture. So this is an all hands on deck project, and Kelsey wasn't exaggerating. There is the potential that portions of the roadway could go into the river. So yes, this will be one of the most significant infrastructure projects in decades in the city.
And when with the 65% that's federal funded, is that something that the city has to try to get, or does the Corps take care of that part?
The Corps takes care of the federal funding.
Good. Thanks.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
Sure. With reference to the water system improvements, which is on page 6, and you mentioned was made by you, Chris, about the PFAS, the treatment design, and regulatory standards. I note that, and I don't think you mentioned that, I guess what is being identified as the cost of the 2025, this aspect of the 2025 water improvement systems is $2 million. Is that right?
That's correct. So the $2 million is the cost for design, and we have seen numbers. As you may remember, we did go out for requests for qualifications. We entered into. We didn't enter it. We're in negotiations with AECOM, and the number, the $2 million is accurate. That is going to be the cost for design.
And I would anticipate in years 26, 27, 28 there'll be additional progress on the PFAS.
Correct. So the two,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, the $2 million will take us through design. Design will likely take 12 to 16 months, and then it'll all depend when we start design. We start January 1st, then 12 to 16 months after that, you're going to be ready for construction, and construction's projected to be $17.5 million.
Anyone else? Mr. Hart.
Kind of going back to the Riverside Drive project, and look at the 350,000. Is the 350,000, is that broken up the same way, 65%, 35%?
Yes.
Yeah.
And who is doing that design work? Oh, yet.
It's done. The actual design.
The design's actually done by the Army Corps.
Yeah.
So we actually pay. As part of that, we are paying engineering fees to the Corps to do the drawings. So the Corps does those drawings, those designs.
And I mean this as respectfully as I possibly can. Your face is funny. what I meant, what I was going with that is, it's as a national scenic river, that is obviously is burdensome as it applies to this project.
That's correct. So the possible solutions, as Kelsey mentioned, there were so the due diligence part that's been done, that the Corps took on, they have to look at several alternatives, and one being no build alternative. So basically doing nothing. So you have to look at alternatives, and unfortunately, the viable alternative, because it's a national scenic river, is the vegetative, the more the softer approach. However, it is a little bit more expensive for certain aspects of it. So it does make it a little difficult. If this wasn't a national scenic, so yes, there's going to be National Park Service, NP. You'll be going through different permitting. There's going to be a boatload of permits, but the Corps will drive all that. But it is a difficult project because of the location.
Do we have any say which option we choose?
No. We don't. They actually tell us, and I'll be honest with you, it's probably okay that it's that way, because even if we wanted to go with if you tried to tell them, we want to go with this other option, they're going to say, yeah, we're not going to permit it. So that's kind of, when you do decide to work on a project with the Corps, and as Mr. Kennedy alluded to, hitch your wagons with them, they are looking to do the best project for all parties involved, meaning also all the permitting parties too. So yeah, so it's not substantial, and we can that report is available. We can certainly send a link. The report, we actually made it available. Krista made it available earlier probably in July, because there was a public outreach period that we had to do. So it's published on the Army Corps' website, and it goes through. I think it's like 600 pages or something, but it's massive.
See the teams meetings. There's something else.
And the last question I had was the backup motor.
Yeah,
we put that on the shelf. Is there like a length of time that's good for, or is it just kind of something that we can sit there as long as we need?
Typically, those can sit there as long as they need to. Those types of motors are very, as long as as long as they're kept in the right environment, and we have climate control, that kind of stuff. Yes, there's no issue. And honestly, you're probably going to use that thing in the next 10 years anyway. So, but the shelf life is fine. Yeah, there's no issues.
And that's, I'm guessing, way more cost effective than waiting till it breaks.
Yeah, well, it's not even the cost. Yes, you're going to pay a premium because you're going to be looking for a vendor to be able to supply it, and you potentially have residents out of water. So this is typical. This is how, and Ricky would attest, Ricky Gregory, our superintendent, he would attest to this, as much as you can to have stuff on the shelf so that you're ready for a potential emergency, especially when it relates to public utility. It's worth it. It's unfortunate. It's the cost of doing business.
And last question I had was the software, the water software
Mm-hmm.
that you talked about. Does that have the potential to save us money in the long run in terms of identifying problem spots? Is that what it does?
Yeah.
That software kind of.
Yes, it'll proact. So yes, that hydraulic model, it's going to show. I didn't go too deep into it because I didn't want to bore everyone, but it has a lot of engineering side of it. As far as it's going to tell us where our velocities are the most, which a lot of times you're going to see where your higher velocities, you're going to see potential main breaks. So, and if we know that that's the 1960s pipe, the cast iron pipe, you can sort of plan. You can plan your improvements. So we've got this WMR fund, right? Well, it should be based on obviously age of pipe. It should be based on your main breaks, but it also should be predictive in the sense of you should be looking at it where you have flow issues potentially, where you have velocity issues. So yes, it will be able to be used as a predictive tool. It's not, you can't tell the future, but yes, it's going to help you. And this is just my little bit of the background is, you'll get asked this question a lot so I'll give you an example. We talked about sitting down with Greater Cincinnati Water and Claremont County about interconnects and about wholesale water. And the first thing that they ask you to be able to figure out, can we supply you, is, well, can you send over your model? Well, we don't have a model, and that's not atypical, but it's a good tool to have as a water system to be able to model your system and know what you can do. Heck, you may even in the future, there may be an opportunity, we may find more source water one day, and we can be able to say, hey, you know what, Claremont County, we can serve you with water because I know how much we can move through our system. So it's a worthwhile tool. Once you implement it once, we will be able to, this initial $30,000 is essentially to set it up, to get all the information in that system, and then you just add to it. Then we can take ownership of it, and we just as new lines come on, pipes come out, you just update it. So it's a substantial initial cost, but I believe it's a very valuable tool for the utility.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Goodyear.
Actually, I don't have a question so much as just a point of clarification. Looking at the line items that are listed here for all the different projects, I just want to clarify because this could be confusing. Underwater, where we're talking about PFAS earlier, the Vice Mayor asked you about the $2 million for PFAS. Actually, is listed as PFAS treatment and water softening.
Yeah, it's my
so
fault.
I'm assuming that
That's
because we've decided to abandon the idea of water softening. I just want to clarify.
Yeah,
just that $2 million is just for the PFAS.
That's correct. Yes, that was because I think the original study that was done, the whole study was done to look at both, and I think that was when we put it in the software system. That's what it was called. So it's
This is a working document that goes back to the beginning of the CIP back in June, and I think at that point in time we were still looking at that as an option. So we didn't get that cleaned up, but actually that'll get corrected tomorrow morning.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
No, that was a good catch. No, that was a good catch. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody that was involved in this capital improvement program. And this is, given to us in a nice little package, but this is months and months and hours of poring over all of this to figure out what we can actually accomplish next year. So I think you've hit all different aspects of our lives and our residents' lives here in this city next year. So I just thank you all for your efforts. I think it's a exciting program once again for 2025. So thank you.
Can I say one more thing? I just want to say I would also thank everyone. I know this is a lot of work and it's very comprehensive, but as I sit here and you watch this, you see that 40% of this is grants. It's just an amazing thing, and I just want to commend the staff for the fact that you have the ability to do that. And as we talk about each project, well, most of this is grants, I just think that's such a value to the city and to the residents. And I just want to commend that as well.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart? Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.